بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
Assalamu alaikum. It is Wednesday, the 13th of July 2022, and in our series Reflections on the Holy Quran, this is broadcast number 336. These days we've been looking at the words of Surah Al-Baqarah, which is chapter 2 and verse 102. And this is our 17th broadcast, just for that one verse of the Holy Quran. These broadcasts are brought to you by LASER, Lahore Ahmadiyya School of Education in Religion, which is a department of the Lahore Ahmadiyya movement or Ahmadiyya Manishat-e-Islam. This organization goes by various names. These two are the most common. The Ahmadiyya movement was established by Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, who said that although people say that after the Holy Prophet Muhammad, another prophet can come, this is not correct, because the Holy Quran says that the Holy Prophet is Khatamun Nabiyyin, and the Holy Prophet himself explained the meaning of this term by saying La Nabiya Badi. There is no prophet after him, after me. And he went on when people inquired about what will happen if Muslims fall into error. The Holy Prophet said that reformers, Mujaddideen, will come. And Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib claimed to be a Mujaddid, a reformer, in line with that hadith. He was just one of many who appeared. But he said that his distinction from other mujaddids or reformers was that the hadith also spoke of Messiah, son of Mary, coming and a Mahdi coming. He said a prophet cannot come after the Holy Prophet Muhammad. So these titles refer to a mujaddid who will come among the Muslims, who will arise amongst the Muslims, and who will defend Islam and correct the wrong beliefs that Muslims may have. This, of course, started a debate because it was a revolutionary idea. And people started calling Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib a kafir. But Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad pointed out to them that the Holy Prophet had said that if one reciter of the kalima says to another reciter of the kalima, that you are not a Muslim, that you are a heretic, then it's the person saying it who is the heretic. We must remember this, that to be a Muslim, it's sufficient to recite the kalima. Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib and people like Hazrat Maulana Muhammad Ali Sahib Rahmatullah Alayh, they also pointed out that Muslims say that some prophetic revelation has been missed out from the Holy Quran. And some prophetic revelation which is in the Holy Quran is abrogated, is cancelled. Its order is cancelled. You can recite it, but its order is cancelled. And Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad said this cannot be correct, because in the Holy Quran, Allah says that I revealed it and I will protect it. So how can something that God revealed and protected have things missing from it, or things in it which are cancelled? Similarly, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad said that jihad is a fundamental duty of every single Muslim. But that does not mean that you take the sword and start killing down Muslims to force them to embrace Islam. Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad went back, and we have to go back to how the Holy Prophet defined it. Returning from fighting, the Holy Prophet said that Muslims were returning from Jihad-e-Asghar, minor jihad, to Jihad-e-Akbar, major jihad. And then explained that Jihad-e-Akbar is Jihad bin Nafs. It's the fight with your own inner self, your own desires, your greed, your enmity, and whatever else. So we need to reflect upon these things. As I said, we are discussing chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 102, and as I keep explaining that this is a long verse and I only recite the portion, the phrase whose words we are going to look at. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ويتعلمون ما يضرهم ولا ينفعهم, and they learn that which harms them but doesn't benefit them or profit them. And this goes back to the previous statements in the same verse. People said that Solomon was such a great king that he had these things, magic potions and so on, which he had buried under his throne, and they protected him and so on. And they would claim to have found some of them, if not all of them, and then teach them to others for payment, of course, not for free, etc., etc., and praying to idols and all this kind of thing. And God says that, this is the Prophet Solomon didn't do this. This is nonsense, and you would benefit from that. And we've covered these things in other broadcasts. Today we are going to look at the first word of this phrase, which is وَيَتَعَلَّمُونَ. Now at the end is a pronoun, and wa, and that's a conjunctive. It joins what's going to come with the statement that's already gone, and yata'allamu in the middle, which is a verb, and its root is ayn lam mim. Ayn lam mim. And in the Holy Quran, there are 14 words which have been constructed using this root. And in total, the root occurs in the Holy Quran. Words based on the root occur in the Holy Quran 854 times. And 382 times it's alima. And 163 times it's alim. And 105 times it's ilm. And 73 times it's alameen. And 49 times it's alam. And 41 times it's allama. And what else is there? 18 times it is alim, and 11 times ma'alum. Once we have mu'allim. So, but many times its translation is know, you know, they know, I know, and so on. But also we know that the Holy Quran says Rabbul Alameen. So it also means the world, the universe, the whole creation. So the word, the root ayn lam mim, al-ilmu means to know something, to recognize something. And you can find out about something or know something. One, if it has a unique name, and two, by a description of its attributes. So, sometimes it's easy. With the Holy Prophet Muhammad, as soon as you say Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whether you say the prayer or not, if you're not a Muslim, you probably wouldn't. But as soon as someone mentions that, you know exactly who is being talked about. But if you're going to use attributes, then you'll have to say, the Prophet who appeared in Arabia, he started in Mecca and then went to Medina and so on and so forth. Some may immediately understand who you're talking about. Some may need a little more information, some may need a lot more information, someone may not get it at all, and so on. But sometimes, even when you name something, you might have to give extra information to specify, what exactly are you talking about. You have a guest and someone comes in with a tray or is sent in with a tray, and you say, put it on the side table. And the sofa has a side table on the left and the right. And the person might ask, well, which side table? Although the name table is there, side table is there to the side of the sofa, but there is still ambiguity. So when you say, oh, the one on the right, then the person knows exactly which one it is. And sometimes this word is used as the opposite, to negate something. So you use the negative aspect to see what the positive is. In chapter 8, verse 60, the Holy Quran says, La ta'lamu nahumullah nahumullahu ya'lamuhu. What you don't know. What's the opposite of that? Allah knows. Those who don't know, Allah knows. And you can look at ilm or knowledge in many sort of different ways by categorizing it, by categorizing knowledge in many different ways. One way you can say, well, knowledge is of two types. One is that as soon as you gain it, that's it. Your knowledge of something is complete. You read a book on calculus, and you learn to do differentiation and integration and find the area under a curve and, solid of revolution and all this kind of thing. And once you got to the end of the book, if it's a very advanced book, maybe it has differential equations as well. But once you get to the end, you know all about differentiation. There's nothing more to know. But then, if you have someone who reads the highway code and a book on how to drive a car, and he has passed his theory test, does anyone believe that this person can just open the door of a car, sit down, and just start driving? Because he knows the highway code by heart, the theoretical book on driving he knows by heart. He passed the theory exam. All his answers were right. Would DVLA, the Department for Licensing Vehicles, just issue him with a driving license? No, they wouldn't. They'll say, yeah, that's fine, but now what you need to do is to practice. And that is that in that area, your knowledge is not complete until you actually practice, put into practice what you have read. Another way to categorize ilm is that you could say there's some ilm, some knowledge that cannot be attained simply by rationality, by your brain, by thinking about it. And some knowledge You can get just by thinking about it. Nothing more need be done. It's like, if you read Einstein's theory of relativity, so what more do you need to do in a practical way to understand it? Nothing. But you see, you have to be careful, because for thousands of years before Galileo, using their brains, their intellect, and remember in those days, some philosopher like Socrates or Aristotle or someone would come up with an explanation for something, and people would say, "Good God, that's brilliant. That must be true." No one would actually practically check it to see if it's true. So one of the Greek philosophers had come up with this idea that if you, in your one hand, you have one ball, and in your other hand, you have another ball, and one is heavier than the other, and you go up a tower and you let both the balls go at the same time, the heavier one will fall first. People believe that, not for one day, not for 1 week, not for 1 month, not for 1 year, but for thousands of years. Until Galileo came up with this idea, he said, well, yes, but this knowledge is theoretical. What we know, we've analyzed that using our intellect, and we've come to a conclusion. But is that correct? He lived near the Leaning Tower of Pisa, so he took two things and he went up the tower. He got to the top and he let them go. And both of them hit the ground at the same time, showing that the weight was irrelevant. I mean, if you get a bath of water and you put a heavy ball and a light ball, the heavy ball will sink first. That's because other forces come into play. But the interesting thing is that some years ago I mentioned this, and I was making a speech at a conference, and I asked people this question. In my right hand, I have something heavy. In my left hand, I have something light. If I turn my hands over and let them both go at the same time, which will hit the ground first? And every single person there said the heavy, whatever it was, item, which told me that none of them had studied physics. But anyway, so, sometimes your intellect tells you something and you think, oh, that's it. And yes, it may be so, but sometimes you need a practical element in it as well. Interestingly, this takes us to the use of word ta'aleem, and which means to give information repeatedly until it gets into the head of the listener. And you can see that even after many hundreds of years after Galileo, people still believe that the heavy item will fall first. This is why ta'aleem, giving of knowledge, has to be repetitive and constant. And then God tells us, Allama bil qalb, chapter 96, verse 4, that it's through the agency of the pen that you learn. And we now know that preservation of knowledge and information is extremely important. There are now companies on the internet whose sole purpose in life is to what they call harvest information about you and then sell it to others. But they couldn't do that if information about you hadn't been preserved or saved. And God's example is Allamal bil Kalam. He taught you through the use of the pen. Because obviously, at that time, that was the only means available. And you can see how much importance the Holy Prophet gave to writing down divine revelation. That as soon as he used to have scribes with him, and as soon as a revelation came, he would dictate it to them and ask them to write it down. And what God says is knowledge is divided into two. One is talking about Adam. God said that, I taught him names of things. That doesn't mean that God told Adam, this is a tomato, this is a mango, this is a parrot. But that God put in Adam the ability to learn about things. I mean, the question arises, if God taught Adam the names of everything, how come we've ended up with so many different languages? It's the ability to be able to do it that God put in man's head. But in chapter 6, verse 92, God says, وَعُلِّمْتُمْ مَا لَمْ تَعْلَمُوا. And I taught you those things that you couldn't figure out for yourself. And what are those things? Chapter 3, verse 164, it says, وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ. God gives thee the knowledge of the ilm, of the book and the wisdom. So, that needs to be remembered. I need to check how we do for time. Oh, we have a little time. So I'll just end with that. So what is that knowledge that God gives? What's that book and what's that wisdom and so on? God says, Allamul Ghuyub, chapter 34, verse 48. He knows the unseen, but we can't see. He knows what it is. We may interpret things by indirect evidence, but God knows it. We can't see electrons, but we do experiments, and we get some results, and we say, if they were electrons and they behaved in this way, then this is the result we get. So God says, but I know everything. And then he goes on to say, Alimul ghaibi fala yuzhiru ala ghaibihi ahadan illa anirtada mir rasul. Chapter 72, verse 26. That he knows everything. He knows the unseen, what we can't see, what we don't know. But he doesn't reveal these secrets. He doesn't reveal the knowledge of the unseen except to his messengers, except to his Rasul. And now I want to read out from this dictionary, Mufarradat, which is a dictionary by Ahl Sunnat wal Jamaat. who say that after the Holy Prophet Muhammad, God does not speak to anyone. It says that in this verse there is a hint that Allah only gives his special knowledge, ilm khususi, special knowledge, to his awliya, that is to his friends. And then when the word al-alimu is used for Allah, then it means the being from which nothing is hidden. And God says elsewhere, chapter 69, verse 18, La yakhfa minkum khafiya. But the point is that that's a verse of the Holy Quran, and this is an authentic, authoritative dictionary of Arabic language and words of the Holy Quran, which says that that verse means that God speaks to non-prophets. It specifically says that. That doesn't mean that if someone says God speaks to me, that he's claiming to be a Rasul or Nabi like the Holy Prophet Muhammad or Jesus or Moses or Abraham, alayhi salam, etc. But he does make the ghaib, the unseen, known to such people. After the Holy Prophet, now we have the reformers, the Mujaddideen, or Awliya as this dictionary calls them, to whom God speaks and gives the news of the unseen. So with that, I take my leave of you with the prayer that whoever you are and wherever you may be, may Allah keep all of you safe and sound and free from harm. Assalamu alaikum, Khuda Hafiz, goodbye.